Aho to ye travellers, cometh young, cometh old. 'Tis adventure we seek for the meek and the bold. A knight and a wizard who drinks smashes sour have a magic crusade for you this questing hour.
Welcome back, travelers.
Hello, travelers.
Hello. Welcome back to your favorite podcast, The Questing Hour.
Welcome back to see and talk to your best friends, me
It's
and
us.
Maggie.
Welcome back. Ari, how's it been? How's it going?
It's been okay. I've been so busy. It's been a little rough.
Yeah.
I was talking to a customer the other day, or not a customer. I was talking to a coworker the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, "Oh, how long have you been working here?" And I was like, well, I started in February, but, since then, I've been trying to find another job.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, literally anything at this point. And I've applied to over hundreds of jobs, and I've gotten either rejections or no answer.
It's evil.
And that's been, I feel like, a lot of people's experience. And so it's kind of satisfying that it's not just me. Like, I've seen, I saw a TikTok the other day where this girl basically did, like, a whole PowerPoint full of data based on, like, who she applied to, what she was applying for, her resume, how many responses she got, how many rejections she got. And she was like, I've literally been searching and searching for jobs, and, like, created this whole, like,
that is so wild.
project of research.
Yeah.
And she was like, so if anyone's looking to hire, let me know.
Gosh,
and
that's
she
crazy.
like still didn't find a job after putting in, like, I can only imagine the work that she put in beforehand. But
right?
I just want to say, if you're looking for a job, I see you.
You are not alone. You are not
alone, because
we are
oh my
in it
gosh,
together.
it is so exhausting.
Yeah, it's defeating after a while. You're just like,
It
okay,
really
this is the 60th application I've turned in, met with no response. What's even the point?
Yeah.
But, like, you obviously, it's something that has to happen.
It just needs to be done.
Yeah.
And it sucks because, like, at the same time, a lot of companies and people and places are realizing that they don't need as many workers as they had before. You know, like when Twitter realized it doesn't need, like, freaking 5,000 extra workers, and they laid off a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And, everyone's kind of doing that, and it's been happening since COVID and how we had to all go online. They realized that they didn't need extra people or space that they weren't using, because they can get the job done fine without it, So it's really tough. Even, like, finding a remote job, I feel like. And I'm like, I know I don't have the best resume, but, it is what it is.
You think eventually someone would...
Yeah, like, everyone's hiring, but no one's hiring.
Right? Yeah. If y'all are so desperate for people, answer your messages, bro. Yeah.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
and I'm just glad that we're back in the podcast flow. Or we're getting there.
It's good to be back. Yeah, it's good to be back for sure.
Maggie and I literally posted about how we're back, and then immediately took another 2-week break.
It happens. Life has
been sick.
Wild.
We've been busy.
Yeah,
like, it's just, I went to go see my family for a week, so I wasn't able to record. And because we weren't on top of our schedule, we didn't have anything for at least an entire week.
Yeah,
so,
we're like, oh.
Like, first it was Maggie's laptop, and then we were so ready to get going, and then it just...
And now it fell apart again.
Yeah.
We're back in the groove. We're ready to go. Yeah.
So, how have you been, Maggie? Catch us up.
I've been good. So, this is Maggie's era of casually dating.
Okay.
Which I've literally
dating era.
never ever done before, ever in my life. Ever.
Yeah, how's it feel to do something new like that? Like, that's something I feel like big.
No, it's so crazy. It is literally unlike anything I've ever done, obviously. But it is so much fun, and I'm learning a lot about myself and what I like, what I don't like, what I'm looking for in a person, what I'm not, what people notice about me, which makes me feel really good.
You get to experiment a little bit.
I know, I get to, like, play around, have some fun, flirt a little bit. It's cute. It's fun.
I like that you're kind of looking at it like, I get to figure out what I like, what I don't like.
Yeah,
it kind of tests your boundaries and what you're for sure things are and what your red
Yep.
flags are.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I've, had some good experiences, had some bad experiences, but overall, like, it's a story, right?
Oh
I
my
get to
gosh.
tell people
I
hilarious stories
exactly.
about these weird
Even
guys.
even bad stories are good stories in the
Good, yeah.
future.
And I'm like, well, I don't like that kind of guy, so let's not
Yeah.
look for him in the future. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I found out that I love saying no. Like I feel very empowered in this era of my life. I'm like, I
Yeah.
know what I want. I know what I don't want. I'm gonna go get it. And I'm done trying to get people to like me. And I'm like, what do I like?
Mhm.
How do I actually like them? Like,
Yeah.
what do I want in a person instead of how do I
Oh
make
my
someone want
god.
me? And it's like a totally 180 from what I've ever thought in the
Yes.
past. My whole mindset about dating and relationships has kind of changed in the
I
past
love it.
6 months, and it has been so exciting. And it is very, very cool.
Any casual daters out there, let us know if your experience is anything like Maggie's.
Does it get better or
Does it
worse?
get better or
I,
worse? If
I
you
know,
love it, if it's
right?
changed you,
Yeah.
if it's helped you find the one.
Yeah.
I did not do casual dating. In
Hmm.
the point in my life where I wanted to do casual dating or like, flirt around or
Yeah.
whatever,
Hmm.
I found my partner. So,
And there you go. And you're like, well,
all
here he
right.
is.
Well,
One and done.
one and
Yeah.
done, baby. I don't even
That's
have to
so
do the
funny.
work.
Yeah. No, I used to
But
take it
I
just
do
so
wonder
seriously.
sometimes. I'm like, I
Hmm.
wonder like because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Like, not that I'm gonna obviously, but like it's just interesting to
Hmm.
kind of see what that can bring out in your life and in yourself.
It's so interesting. Yeah,
I
because
love
I
that.
used to I used to take relationships like very seriously. Like I would ruminate on a crush like for months and months and months before I would ever say anything.
That's so
I'd be
funny.
like, "Oh my God, this relationship's gonna take up my entire life. It's gonna ruin everything. I
Like
can't speak to this guy."
fantasizing, thinking
Yeah,
of
like, "Oh, how do I
scenarios.
how do I text back this guy in the perfect way to make him
Yeah.
think this about me? Blah 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 blah." And now I'm just like being myself, going out with my friends, seeing what
I love it.
happens, hanging out, going on first dates.
It's probably so liberating and
It is so
empowering in
it
every
is
way.
so cool. And I thought it was gonna be like stressful as hell trying to
Hmm.
juggle all these guys. But it is it's so fun and it's so cool. And I'm just like making friends along the way.
Yeah, and I mean the
Mhm.
joy of it is that you're kind of just in it, like kind of for nothing. So it's like even if you are
The
juggling
the
all these
stakes are so
guys,
low.
it's like
Yeah.
yeah, there's no risks attached.
Yeah. Low risk, high reward, and the high reward
Yeah,
is free dinner. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's how I feel when I go to bars. I'm like,
Right?
if they flirt with me, and it's not my
Listen,
fault they buy me a drink without
if they
asking.
if they want to buy me a drink, who am
If
I to
they
say
want to,
no?
who am I to
Yeah.
disagree?
Like that's just the community that we built in this bar. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I say, "Thank you,
seriously.
sir," and I leave and I
And
head
then
to
I leave the bar and
goodbye.
go to a different one.
Thank you for the drink. I'll go find someone else to do the same
Oh
thing at the
my
next bar.
gosh. I could
Yeah.
literally talk for an entire episode about bar stories,
Oh
truly.
my God. We gotta have
I
find like
know it's
like
not
a good
medieval,
tavern
but if you
story.
guys want some
Yeah.
chit chatty days, maybe Maggie and I will do little segments where we record and put it on
Yeah.
TikTok.
Maggie and Ari at the tavern and we just tell our bar
Yes,
stories.
we just tell our bar stories.
Pin
It's
in that,
happening.
put in
Pin
that,
in
yeah.
it. Pin in
Pin
it.
in it, pin in
We're
it.
putting it on TikTok, y'all.
Bar stories. Oh, that's
Bar
so
story.
good.
Bar
Bar
story.
story, bar story, bar story.
Oh my god, Maggie and Ari at the tavern. That's
Maggie and Ari
genius.
at the tavern. That is so great.
Oh my
Okay,
god.
that's good. We can have like a little green
Tavern
screen.
tea.
Tavern tea. I'm writing that down too.
I'm
Putting
writing it
it.
down. Look at my notebook.
Tavern tea, tavern tea.
It's
We could
happening.
do
We'll
like a
record.
green screen tavern background and
Yes.
some of that cheesy fantasy tavern music that's on TikTok, and we just talk about all the crazy stories
Bro,
that
I
we've
put
had.
that in all of my stuff, all the tavern music. I listen to that
I
all the
love it.
freaking
It's
time,
so
bro.
great. It's so good. Oh, this is
We're
genius.
we're gonna record our first few segments of Tavern Tea right after we record this,
Yes.
so we can
Yes.
prep our
Oh,
TikTok,
that's
y'all.
so
So be
great. Yeah.
prepared. Go
All
over
names
there.
will be changed for
Yeah, everything will be
anonymity.
changed for
Yeah.
privacy reasons and safety,
But
of course.
we have some good stories.
Oh
We
my
got some
god, that
good
is so
stories.
funny.
This is the best idea we've had to date, maybe.
Genius.
This is so good. So good.
Oh my god, I
Yeah.
can't. I'm excited. Anyways,
Anyway, back to what we were gonna talk about.
Yeah, so Jinx.
So
we have been MIA, but of course y'all know on Mondays we've been doing our historical medieval figures and fiction characters and kind of diving deep into the literacy and art and just history of medieval that some people may or may not know. And so we briefly did a Cliff Notes version of our guy Dante over here.
Yeah.
Who was an Italian writer, poet, philosopher, person who used to be a citizen of Florence, Italy, until he was exiled. And when he was exiled, he created one of the greatest literary pieces ever called the Divine Comedy.
He really
Most
showed
of
it to those Florentines.
Might not know it, but part of the Divine Comedy is Dante's Inferno. That is one section of the 3 parts, but I feel like a lot of people know Dante's Inferno, but don't know the Divine Comedy.
Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of became its own thing
by
itself.
It just stuck.
Yeah, I guess the imagery with like the circles of hell has been used in a lot of popular culture and things like that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, I was one of those people where I didn't know it was part of a whole story. I thought it was its own thing. Mm-hmm. And even looking into the different sections, I feel like it is the most notable. I feel like.
Yeah.
Just like the feeling you get when you're. Yeah, I was just reading a summary, but the feeling I was getting when I was reading it, I was like, "This is crazy! Like, this is interesting! Like,
kind of spooky."
I mean, I feel like a lot of people either think about what hell is like or think about what heaven is like. Mm-hmm. More than the other. So
yeah.
But we're gonna talk about all 3 of them today.
All 3,
a whole rundown of the Divine Comedy just for you guys. Your own version of Spark Notes. Unless you're like me and Maggie, and we might order our own copy to actually analyze and read
through it because we are nerds.
Cover to cover. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Seriously. I was looking at the Cliff Notes and the summaries, and I was like, I need my own copy of this. Like, this is a masterpiece. I want to
dissect this thing.
Like, I want to dissect every inch of this.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So yeah, unless you're like us, you could just listen to us, and we'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about what the Divine Comedy is as a whole. It's an epic poem about Dante's journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven. He basically, the whole story is him meeting people from history and other literature and pop culture in his time, and kind of seeing where they've ended up after they died, which is such an interesting take. Like, imagine writing that today, and you're like going through the afterlife, and you're like, I wonder what Michael Jackson is up to now. I wonder what Shakespeare is up to now.
Yeah, like what level of purgatory is, yeah. And is Mother Teresa on, or like what sphere of heaven is she in? Yeah. Like, yeah, it's very interesting. And I think what's even more interesting is that he did write this, like I said, when he was in exile. And so he takes a lot of like what he's feeling in his form of exile and like uses that in the works. And the story, the poem, the narrative, it starts where he's like in this forest. And he's like 30 something years old, and it almost feels like a midlife crisis of sorts. Yeah. Like my whole life, this is the darkest night of the soul right here.
Yeah, no, literally. He's lost and alone in this forest, and he really has no idea where he's going. And then these 3 animals show up, and they're like, "Hey, follow me. I know where you're trying to go." And they just take him straight to hell. And so that's where the story starts. That leads us straight to the Inferno. Yeah.
Goes straight into hell. And I like that it like works its way up to the worst, and then goes through purgatory, and then goes into heaven. Because as I was researching, this is one of the first pieces of literature that actually does that. A lot of other pieces of literature don't start off immediately in hell. Yeah. They work they work like different or backwards.
Yeah.
And but as soon as he gets to hell, he has immediately this guide. It's a shadow of a guide. His name is Virgil, and he's a real life person. He is a poet that was very famous for one of his works that was about the founder of Rome, whose belief was that Rome had to be united under divinity. So very religious agenda.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's kind of where we get into our first part. I mean, the woods is such a simple beginning, but it starts with this human situation where he's kind of on Earth still. He's in the woods, obviously, and then he just kind of gets led almost astray, and he's lost and confused already.
Yeah.
And then he gets into hell, and he's even more lost and confused. Like, oh, now I have to go through all of this for what? Like,
Right? Yeah. And he runs into all of these people and he sees how they're being punished in hell. And a lot of times he questions it. He's like, I don't really think they deserve all the things that are happening to them because they were just making human decisions. So it's very interesting to see his commentary, not only on like religion as a whole, but also all of the people in like his own history and kind of getting to reflect on those as well.
Oh, absolutely. So to go through the Inferno, there are 9 levels of the Inferno. And this, I was just eating this up. It was just so there was just so much going on. I have so many tabs open.
I have a billion tabs, yeah.
But I'll give a quick rundown of the. I had to pull up a chart so that I could remember all of the names for the circles. But this chart includes the woods, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, that is cool.
Because the woods, it says the condition for being in the woods is middle age.
Oh.
Yeah, so it really is like a midlife crisis.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which would mean that being in like a midlife crisis is an entire different state of being than just being like a regular alive human being.
Wow. Yeah.
That's the implication.
Yeah, for sure.
But okay, so then of course there's the gates of hell, but after the gates of hell, we get into our first circle, which is considered limbo. And this is a part of hell, which I thought like was interesting that it was a part of hell to begin with. But it's limbo, where we see some famous people like Socrates, Plato, Homer. And this is where the pagans, the unbaptized people go, people who were born before Jesus. They're all in the first ring of hell, in limbo.
Okay.
Then we get into circle 2. And I want to say, we'll judge this afterwards.
Yeah.
But according to the Divine Comedy, the circles go up based on how sinful the sins actually are. So the worse the sin, the deeper you are in hell. Yeah. And in the center is where Satan is, but we'll get there. Circle 2 is lust. It kind of follows the 7 deadly sins plus some more specific sins. But circle 2 is lust. So we have people like Helen of Troy or Cleopatra is cited in there, and Achilles is there.
I don't know what Achilles did. I don't know enough about
What is Achilles doing there? And then we got our circle 3, which is gluttony. And this was so the crime of your sin is fitted for the punishment. So one of the examples that was given is the punishment for gluttony is that all these people, their faces they're in the circle of hell with Cerberus. And Cerberus is like sloshing them around in like slush and mud with their faces in the dirt, and they're
Ew.
like eating the dirt basically.
Oh gosh, that is just gross.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In circle 4 we have greed, which goes hand in hand with wastefulness. So that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
And then 5 we have wrath and also sloth in the same
Cool.
one.
Mhm.
And then here's where the circles are separated. And there is a gate that leads to the 6th ring in a city that is in hell. And the gate is called the Gate of Dis. And
Mhm.
that is where Medusa is.
Ooh.
Yeah, Medusa and
Interesting.
Furies are at the gate.
Mhm.
Once you get through the gate, you're in the city of Dis, which is where
Mhm.
the rest of the circles you have to go through are.
Yeah.
And in circle 6, we have heresy, which is a lot of political figures that are actually from Italian history are
Mhm.
listed here. Literally, it goes like fictional characters, some philosophers and poets, and then it's like more fictional characters or mythological characters,
Mhm.
and then it's like political figures that really did exist in history.
Dang. And he's like, I actually think you're in the 7th circle of
He's like,
hell.
I think every one of you deserves to be in the last 3 circles of hell.
Yeah, y'all suck. Really taking a bold stance there, I think.
Yeah, so he definitely was working
Mhm.
through a lot of his stuff, especially that had to do with his exile. He
Mhm.
put a lot of his real life enemies in this book.
That's crazy. It's
And
kind of like a
like
burn
these
book.
are
Yeah.
a lot of, yeah, literally like a medieval burn book is
Yeah.
what it is.
Mhm.
Circle 7, we have circle 7 is the most controversial in my opinion.
Mhm.
Is this violence, murder, suicide, blasphemy, sodomy, and people who are there are like minotaur centaurs, harpies, and then some other real life political figures.
Yeah.
Circle 8 is described almost like a battlefield, which is interesting, but it's broken up into a bunch of different pits where all of these people are just thrown in together. And all of these people are in the 8th circle for one of these things. It's fraud, pimping, flattery, like theft, any type of
Mhm.
corruption or hypocrisy goes there.
Yeah.
More political figures, go figure.
Right.
Not much different from current political times.
Mhm.
Not much has changed since the medieval era.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, history repeats itself.
Oh my god, what? And then we have the 9th circle, which is the center.
Mhm.
And that is where Lucifer is. And this is where people who commit treason and betrayal go. And there's a
Yeah.
few people listed there, but it's said that Lucifer has 3 mouths and he is not like gnawing on these people until the end of time, basically. Just
Wow.
imagine being chewed up by a giant Lucifer
Yeah.
like forever. And the
Not great.
three notable people that were there for
Mhm.
being gnawed on until the end of eternity
Mhm.
is Judas,
Mhm.
Jesus betrayer,
Mhm.
and 2 people who conspired to kill Julius Caesar.
Which, I mean, I guess it makes sense because he's Italian, but it still blows my mind. He's like,
They're
yeah,
on the same level as
these guys that
Judas.
killed this one politician are just as bad as the guy that killed the savior of the world. Yeah.
Which is so funny because I
Yeah.
feel like arguably this is a
Mhm.
lot more like Christian and religious than most other things.
Yeah.
Like it's very much like, okay, like especially when we see all these mythological figures from Roman and like Greek and
Mhm.
other stories that are there, like these are not real creatures, but these are other
Yeah.
creatures in other like religions and paganism and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So obviously if pagans and other creatures are in the circles of hell, then that's a statement in of itself to be like, hey, this is the true religion, and if you believe in
Yeah.
any of these things or if any of these other things are actually real, they belong in hell.
Yeah.
And so that's a statement in of itself. But to put Judas as the main figure over there, and then have these political murderers, political assassins on the same level is so interesting to me about the importance of politics and religion at the same time.
Right. Yeah, like kind of since the beginning of time, they've been intertwined in such a weird way. Like I believe in separation of church and state, but there's really you can't really have one without the other in any kind of conversation in any society since the Renaissance.
Yeah. But I think that I want to say that I think that's more of a testimony of human nature and not of those things themselves.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I think that you can definitely have one without the other, but it's only human nature to be like intertwining those things, you know, because a lot of people's political views are based on religious beliefs. So it's like, can you really have a separation? Yes, maybe on a higher level there needs to be an unbiased, you know, figurehead. Right? There needs to be someone who makes these decisions that is unbiased based on all of our other decisions in a democracy. I don't know if the rest of the world would agree with that. But like, you know, it's, you know, people are gonna vote or sway based on, you know, what they believe. And I think that really says a lot about Dante putting those assassins in the same category. Is like how strongly his political beliefs match his religious ones.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Those are two of like the only institutions that humanity really follows that coincide so closely with your values and like who you are as a person. So I guess that is why he equates them so evenly when he's you know deciding where these people go in hell.
Because he's like, I could put them in the murderous, you know, violence circle, but that just doesn't do it justice. They ruined the entirety of Rome.
They destroyed Rome and killed one of its strongest rulers.
Yeah, exactly. So
Which
he's like, not enough. Circle of hell forever.
You guys are actually going with Judas. Straight to Satan. Straight to Satan. Yeah.
So yeah, basically a lot of going through the Inferno is him and Virgil just like seeing all these people be punished and tortured, like based on whatever their punishments are. And once they get to the center, Virgil's like, hey, we gotta get through this. We gotta climb Satan. And this is so confusing. When I was trying to, so basically it seems like first of all, also Satan is described frozen in a dark pit at the center of the world. Yeah. He's supposed to be the farthest, coldest point away from God, basically. Yeah. No light, no heat, no love, nothing but cold and darkness. And he's like frozen in the ice. And so it describes them like climbing his torso, and then it's like it flips and they have to climb his legs. Like, have you ever seen As Above, So Below, where they're like, they jump down the thing and all of a sudden it's right side up and they have to climb out? Yeah. Yes. That's kind of what I was picturing in my head for them, because think about it. If they're at the bottom, how would they get in the middle if they're already at the bottom of the pits of hell?
So I guess it's more like a sphere, and they're like going into the core, and then they kind of go out the other side. Yes, exactly. Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's what I was thinking in my head. That's why I need to read it. I need to.
I know. I need Dante's exact I need like a words. Map. Yeah. Like, so like there's like the Earth's crust, which is where we live, and then, I guess hell is like, he describes it as inside the Earth, because then the mountain of purgatory is on the surface of the Earth. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at every picture, it literally looks like it's Earth on top, and then you're going into the core, like journeying to the center of the Earth. Literally, deal with Brendan Fraser. Yeah.
So we're just like, okay, we're going down, and then we're going down. Up.
So it's like they climb through and they climb up his legs. Yeah. And then they come out on the other side, basically. And that's when they are at the bottom of Purgatorio.
Yeah.
And they like come out and they're like, oh wow,
whoa, hello. Yeah. Yeah, so then they're on their way to Purgatorio.
Mm-hmm.
Virgil's like, we gotta jump on this boat and sail to this island. And on this island is the mountain of Purgatory. And we're gonna climb that next. And Dante's probably like, great, I love climbing. What's more
Woo!
climbing?
We're already here, I
Surely
guess.
haven't seen enough, right?
No, seriously.
Yeah. So Purgatorio basically holds all the people that aren't evil, but didn't really they're not bad people. Some of them are good people, but they just really haven't done enough to prove themselves one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of just hanging out in this weird mountain place, walking in circles on this little round mountain, doing whatever they have to do to try to prove that they can ascend to the next level.
Okay.
So yeah, basically their whole job is to suffer on this little thing, and then when the sun comes out, they're allowed to try to climb to the next level. And the people on Earth that are still alive, and this is kind of where the whole like idea of like Catholic indulgences and penance comes from, but they can pray for these people and give offerings for the people that are in purgatory to give
That's
them
crazy.
strength to like assist them on their climb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you like putting in the work in purgatory, and then your like uncle that's still alive is praying for you, and you're like, ooh, I got a boost of strength, and you can climb up.
in the Hunger Games where they send a little
Like a sponsor, yeah. You get
Sponsored.
sponsored, and you can climb to the next level of
You
purgatory.
get sponsored in purgatory, and then you get to go.
Yeah, yeah. So the 7 kind of layers of purgatory, they go upwards instead of downwards like hell, but they kind of coincide with the same levels. It's the 7 deadly
Seven deadly
sins. That's what they're
sins,
called. Yeah. So the first one's pride, then envy, wrath, sloth, avarice, which I think is greed, yeah, and then gluttony and lust is the top one. And I think yeah.
And I noticed that they're rearranged.
Yeah, which is very interesting.
They're arranged, I think, backwards to hell, or
Mhm.
almost backwards to hell.
Yeah, they're like basically flipped upside down.
But I like the idea that it's a mountain because like them having to physically climb is like exactly what purgatory is like described as, because they like the sinners who aren't good enough for hell and not good enough for heaven,
Yeah.
they have to work through whatever their sins are and feelings are to move up the levels.
Yeah, they
so
gotta,
like the
put in the
mountain
work.
is the perfect like analogy for that.
And in a lot of the levels, they're like carrying rocks, or there's like super strong wind, or there's like obstacles in their way. So they're having to fight all of these things to try to get to the next level. And the higher they go, the closer they are to earthly paradise, which is as close as they can get on that plane before they ascend to Paradiso, which is the next level. So, Dante's climbing through all this, meeting some more historical figures. a lot of philosophers, a lot of politicians are here, and he gets to question them a lot about why they're here, what they could have done differently in their lives so they could just go, ascend straight to heaven instead of having to work for it. And then he gets to the top, which is what they call the earthly paradise. And it's like a nice place, right? It's pretty nice.
It's nice, a nice little.
But it's still purgatory. We haven't ascended yet. And so this is kind of where Virgil leaves Dante. He leaves Dante. He's like, well, this is as far as I can take you.
Yeah, he's
Somebody
like,
else
this is
is
as far
gonna
as my
pick you
human
up.
knowledge can help you.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
let's get out of here.
Yeah. And there's 2 rivers at the top. One is the River Lethe, and I can't remember the other one, but it's another name that's really long. Let's see. Oh, Yeah, so the River Lethe is a river in Greek mythology. It was part of the underworld, and you would go into the River Lethe, and everything about you would be forgotten. Everything that was about you would be forgotten. So he takes a little swim in there, and his whole human life has been completely forgotten. And then he gets to the river and that's basically the one that lets him begin the ascent to Paradiso.
Oh.
Yeah. And from there, he's picked up by this girl named Beatrice. And she's like, yeah, I'll take it from here. Let's go.
Like, I got it.
Let's go to Paradiso. And Paradiso is very cool because they're basically flying through space. And of course, it's split up into
Nine spheres.
The 9 spheres, yeah. So I just like imagine them flying through the solar system, and the 9 spheres are basically the 9 planets.
That's actually really cool.
It is very, very cool, yeah.
That's an interesting mix of like science and religion and theology.
It is. It really is. Yeah, because most of them are like also based on like the Greek and Roman gods. Because like
Venus is lovers.
Yeah, Venus is love, and like that's where all the like the best people like who showed the most love, that's where they kind of abide. Yeah. And so they meet a ton of saints.
We got these 9 spheres. They meet saints.
Yeah, they meet saints, they meet some like theologians, some of like good rulers, like King Solomon from the Bible is there. In the sphere of Jupiter, which is the sphere of like great knowledge, great wisdom. And he was known as like one of like the wisest people in history. So he's chilling up there. And then the closer you get to the ninth circle, which is the order of angels. And all these angels are just swimming around. They're swimming around. And that's how you know you're getting close to God.
All the angels are here.
Yeah. And and Dante starts to realize, like, oh, this is what the whole journey was. Like, we're going straight to God. We just had to take some detours first to see, we had to get further away from God and then go all the way up and ascend. So they get to what is called Empyrean, which is where God lives. And it's described as an enormous rose with all of these petals coming out of it. And angels are flying around the petals like bumblebees, like just going from petal to petal, like dropping love and wisdom and all of these beautiful things into this rose and just like fertilizing it. And God is at the very center of it. And so Beatrice is like, well, I'm leaving you here. I brought you through all these great things. So she goes to sleep in a little petal, which is adorable.
That is so
I'm
cool.
just going to take a little rest in my little house.
Like, all right,
is
do
a
my
flower
job.
petal. Yep. And yeah, Dante comes face to face with God. And there's a quote that he says, and he's basically talking about like his whole journey and why he did all this stuff. And he says, "That was not a flight for my wings." And I think that means that this whole journey, it feels like he was trying to learn something about himself. Like he was lost in the woods. He didn't really know where he was going. He was going through a midlife crisis. And, the journey could be interpreted as he was trying to find himself. Like he was trying to figure out what he was going to do with the rest of his life.
Questioning what he's done, who he is.
Yeah, but at the end of it, he realized like the whole journey was to find a higher power and to find a higher purpose than what I thought my life was going to be.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I have a clip from the Paradiso, and it explains a little bit of, it's just like a little cliff note, and it says, Dante himself cannot write fully of what he experiences in the Empyrean. Here Beatrice leaves him while he is clothed in light, and Saint Bernard of Clairvaux accompanies him as his final guide into the heart of seeing the ideal vision itself of God. And it says Dante will see countless saints from scripture and the history of the church and ultimately be rendered speechless. And the quote from the Paradiso is, "Here cease the powers of my high fantasy. Already were all my will and my desires turned as a wheel in equal balance by the love that moves the sun and the other stars."
Wow.
So he's really come face to face with something that is greater than him.
Yeah.
And everything that he thought was earthly and what he knew about himself and life before has changed. He's found something else that moves him and moves the stars and the sun.
There's beautiful.
Hold on, I have a clip from, where is it? I have a clip from Virgil. A quote. Jesus.
Let's see what Virgil has to say about this.
Clip of
Virgil,
what?
to you?
Virgil, to you? So there's a part where they're in purgatory, where Virgil kind of explains that he thinks sin derives from distortions of love. So like it all comes from a place of love. And he's saying, particularly when it comes to certain sins, for example, like, what's it called? When, for example, he says, like, when their love lacks vigor, that would be sloth. Their sin would be sloth.
Yeah.
Or like when, in a certain case of pride or envy, that would be when they misplace their love into something, or greed. You know, they love money more than other things that they're supposed to be loving, or, you know, things like that. And when they love too much, it would be like lust or something like that. And so he also explains that love is drawn by something external to a human being, but our free will enables us to act and distinguish it between greater or lesser loves however we see fit based on our desires.
Yeah.
So that's what creates the sin, is misplaced love, because we don't know where to put it and how to put it in certain places. So it seems like him taking this whole journey was almost like a lack of his own self-love. Like him not knowing where he belongs and fits into this world, and having to travel quite literally every inch of the spiritual world in order to figure that out.
Gosh. Yeah, that is just so cool that you can just equate all of it to, it's a story about love. It is really a story about love.
Story about love.
And he doesn't know what he loves at the beginning, and he sees.
And at the very end, he realizes it's the one thing that moves the entire universe.
Yeah, love is everything.
Love is everything.
Love is literally everything. It's so beautiful.
It's the only reason that anything is balanced and beautiful and moves the sun and the stars. And like the crazy thing is, like, I think this is why it's also a bit more memorable that the Inferno is more well known, because I feel like we get so much, it's more human almost. And then when we get to the Paradiso, it's like, well, even I, the writer, Dante, cannot describe to you what it is like.
Right.
And it's like, I just have to picture it. Like, I have to pretend based on my own imagination.
Yeah.
You just told me what hell was like.
Yeah, and even Virgil, like, you know, taking a step back, he's like, this is as far as I can guide you. We're going to have to find somebody else who understands the rest of it.
And as his guide, he's literally supposed to be like a symbol of knowledge and of power. Yeah. And like basically that knowledge and just knowing things. And that's why he is the guide in particular, because it was somebody who came before Dante who was knowledgeable and who was supposed to like know everything basically. So that's why he functions as the guide. And then when you get to this point where he's like, I can't even be the guide anymore. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And you expect me to listen to Beatrice? I just went through hell with Virgil.
Well, here's the thing. So Beatrice, nobody really knows who she was in history, but this kind of spills into the much to think about slide. But because I was gonna ask, like, why do you think he wrote about all these special guides? But it is rumored that Beatrice, the Beatrice that he's talking about in the story, is a woman that he was in love with. Yeah. Like after the human knowledge of a writer he looked up to, after that expired, he followed the woman he loved into paradise and trusted everything he had to say and let her lead the way. God, it's so beautiful.
That is so romantic.
Right? It's so cute.
I also wanted to give a quick rundown of all of the 9 spheres, because it really does go through all the planets, but they are like, so this one, the first one we see is the moon, where it says that it's for the inconsistent, basically. So those that are inconsistent with their vows are still considered less sinful than everyone else, and they're still in like this first sphere of heaven, which is really cool.
Yeah.
He ends up seeing like his friend's sister there, and he's like, oh my god. And I also noticed the more we go through, I feel like the more we see like personal people in his life.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like, you know, political figures and stuff like that that are in hell, but like even in purgatory we see like his best friend who sings to people, and you know, it's this guy, and he like personally knows these people, and it's like more connected and nicer the farther we go along. But I think that's really cool that is the first one where it's like the moon is not quite a planet like the other ones, but it's still part of the solar system.
Right. Yeah. I guess if you leave Earth, like that's your first stop.
Yeah. And then we have Mercury, where we have the souls who are more ambitious, who were ambitious in their earthly lives, and basically that is what led them into this sphere of paradise. And then we, of course, have Venus, where we have the lovers. We have those who are lovers of all kinds, it says, which is really, really interesting because there is a specific level of hell for people who took love the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's where we have lust. It is the, I think, third level of hell. Or second level. But basically, this is a quote from the Inferno, and it says, "Love led us to one death. The realm of Cain awaits for the man who quenched us of our lives. Such were the words they offered." That was what greeted him when he got to the second level of hell.
Yeah.
Love led them to death? No. Love led them to Venus.
Yeah.
Your sin led you to death.
No, a lot of them I
You
noticed
loved
like
too much.
reflect each other. Like this is the bad way to do this kind of love, and this is the good way. There's, I think it's one level where it's like righteous war, and then like righteous political figures. Like there's a bunch in hell that did it the wrong way, and then in paradise there's a bunch that did it the right way too.
Yep. We get to the sun, where it's like teachers and theologists.
Yeah.
And then Mars is for the warriors. And this is where he meets his great grandfather.
Yeah. That's so
oh my
sweet.
gosh. And he meets a lot of the people that like came in Florence before him.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
he basically, this is where he starts to question things about his exile. And he's starting to like really connect all these dots to like create lessons from the Inferno and from Purgatorio. But yeah, this is where we see warriors and kind of like the good side of war.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. And then next would be Jupiter, where we have it says the just. So that's where we see a lot of people who, it just says the heaven of justice. People who served out justice, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I like it.
It says Dante sees the souls there, spelling words for him to read. He encounters a stunning and mysterious speaking eagle made up of many souls. He puzzles over the numerous difficult questions. Untimely, perhaps unfathomable questions. And it says, as birds rising, flapping from a stream, as if applauding for their feeding well, fly in a circling flock or other form. So in those lights the saintly creature flew, and as they flew about, they sang for joy, and formed the figures D and I and L.
Whoa.
So, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then Saturn was for contemplative thinkers. So we have St. Peter here, St. Benedict, probably a lot of saints.
Yeah.
And this is the one that leads them into the Imperium area. Oh no. Then we get the fixed stars, which is the 8th sphere. And then we get 9, which this one says the primum mobile. I don't know what that is, but it makes me think of like a baby mobile.
Yeah,
with
that's
the
where
universe.
the one the angels are in.
Yeah. That's where all the angels are flying around.
And
circling
about.
Then the Empyrean. So yeah, the angel mobile. I'm just thinking about the biblical accurate angels. Just
crazy.
flying in circles.
Yeah. So
that's
scary.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
And then then we have the Empyrean, where he just discovers basically the truth of existing.
Amazing. Incredible. And the answer is love. And that is just so sweet.
The answer is love. There is this, I do want to share it. I'll make sure we link it below. But I found this thing that describes the levels and quotes the comedy in such a organized and beautiful fashion.
That is so clutch. It
It's
really
called
is. Yeah.
100daysofdante.com.
100 Days of
And
Dante.
and the amount of information, I have 3 tabs pulled up, and it's describing all of the levels in summary, and I don't even know what other information is on here, but I was like, it's
Wow.
working.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's really cool. But
Mhm.
yeah, the book is just it's very long. I think it's like 300 pages, and it's
Very
all a
long.
poem. It's an entire
Uh-huh.
poem. I want to
It's a
make sure
big
y'all know it is
poem.
literally a
It's a
poem.
poem.
A poem.
Yeah.
um it's just a narrative,
Mhm.
poem taken from, literature before him, which I feel like long form poetry was very popular in medieval times.
Mhm.
It was just like how they spoke. Like it just made
Yeah.
sense to do long form prose or poetry as opposed to writing novels.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. It just kind of, I guess it evolved from like singing songs and
Mm-hmm.
like telling
Exactly.
stories and songs, like, around
Yeah, like
campfires, but
like
back when they
word
were
of
just
mouth
oral tradition. Yeah.
mythologies and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's easy to remember songs,
Yeah, like
so that's
this
how we're gonna
makes more
start telling
sense
stories."
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then that evolved
exactly.
to like poetry, and then they eventually wrote it down. Yeah, and then I think by this time the printing press had already been invented. So I hope this thing was, printed and spread everywhere because it
All over the
deserves to
world.
be read. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that the introduction of real life figures actually almost makes the story more believable. Like
Hmm.
I like if I were to read this, I feel like back then with the limited knowledge that they had at the time, I would be like, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what hell
This is
is
like
like."
probably
I
true. Yeah.
believe, yeah, like this is probably true. Like this
Yeah.
is definitely real life, not fiction.
Hmm.
Um, because we had these popes guilty of, you know, being greedy and treacherous, and then adulterers,
Yeah.
and then we had all these figures from Greek and Roman history and mythology,
Hmm.
and then of course figures from Christianity and the Bible. But I feel like this is definitely more of a testimony to Christianity and the Bible, and kind of the death to the Greek and Roman mythologies and rise of Christianity.
Yeah, for sure.
um for sure.
Hmm.
But I think above all else, it speaks of human nature and humankind. It
Hmm.
really is a f- a symbolic of like how humans can fall so far but can still be redeemed, essentially.
Hmm.
Whether he actually went on this journey or figuratively went on this journey, he seemed to have learned something at the end of it.
Yeah, yeah,
you
for
know
sure. Hmm.
as hopeless and dark as it was in the beginning, it had a complete 180 turn by the end of it.
Right. Yeah, and he experienced,
The
a
light he was lacking.
unfathomable joy at the end. Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, this is
Exactly.
what I was missing the whole time. The thing that literally puts the stars in the sky and makes the planet spin."
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, we don't really get an afterward, but I'm
Hmm.
sure, what we see of Dante in the beginning is he was probably a completely different person after this story.
Yeah. Hmm.
Whether he was alive or dead, but
Right.
who's to say?
Who's to say
Um,
for sure what
but
happened in
yeah,
that woods? Yeah.
definitely a story of love, definitely a story
Hmm.
of human nature, of sinning and redemption, which I love the idea. I still, now that I like we talked about purgatory, I'm like,
Hmm.
this is really, I could get behind. Like I love the idea that like it's not as bad as hell, but like if you do the work, you can get into heaven. Like you
Yeah.
can get to
Mhm.
the top if you put in the work.
Yep. Yeah. It's
Like,
very interesting. And a
so
lot of a lot of the things in this novel have like directly impacted modern day religion as well.
mm,
because these ideas are not really biblical, like the idea of purgatory and working your way up to heaven.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
in the Bible, but a lot of the things that he wrote about in this one epic have kind of shifted the way that Christianity is practiced as a whole, which
Yeah.
is wild.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean Christianity, a lot of parts of it do believe,
Hmm.
in redemption. I literally had someone tell me once, like, I could go my whole life sinning, and if I give into God before I die, I would get into heaven.
Hmm.
And I was like, that is crazy, but that's like redemption if I ever heard it.
Yeah, okay, sick.
I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, like, go crazy, but
Just do whatever
like,
you want and then just say sorry at the very end. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of real life examples where, like,
Hmm.
that can be shown, where we see kind of that, that redemption or redeeming quality where people just kind of give into the light, basically, or give into God.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed, like, researching this,
It's so,
and
so
I can't
interesting.
wait to
Yeah.
analyze it.
Yeah. So here's one of my questions. We kind of already touched on the other ones,
Yes.
but um, how do you think Dante's journey correlates with the hero's journey that we talk about? Do you think there's
Mm.
overlap? Do you think it's a similar circle?
Mm. I think that, hold on. I I feel like it's almost, hey, I might be biased, but I feel like, given the way it started, it feels very much like the darkest night of the soul.
Yeah, he's lost. He literally
Like,
has no way forward. Hmm.
yeah, he's down in the dumps. He doesn't know
Hmm.
what he's doing. He's, I mean, back then it wasn't really midlife, it was old life, because they
The
weren't
end.
living very
Yeah,
long.
that is the end. Yeah.
But it just feels like, things were worse, and then they weren't better, but they were getting there, and
Hmm.
then he had to do the work to climb up the mountain. And then, even when things were better, it still wasn't, like, as good as it could get. Like, he didn't have
Hmm.
the answers. And it feels like when he reaches, like, where God is, basically, that is the reward.
Yeah,
Like, the whole thing feels like the bottom half, where he enters the
that's
unknown,
what I was gonna
right
say.
into the
Yeah.
darkest night,
Hmm.
into, the trials and the reward,
Hmm.
before he possibly goes back to his, ordinary. But now he has taken with him the knowledge from what he has gone through, and
Hmm.
his whole life and adventure, his next adventure, is going to be different because of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like he was already in that dark night of the soul
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of had to complete the circle.
Kind of scoop out there.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
to work his way out.
Definitely getting exiled would be
Bec-
pretty bad. So that would
no,
probably lead me to a rock bottom.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It would definitely, I feel like the exile would almost be like the trials part,
Hmm.
because he has to go to the center of hell before he climbs up purgatory.
Yeah.
So he literally is physically going through worse things as
As
he's
bad as
going
it
through
could
his
be. Yeah.
journey,
Yeah.
getting worse and worse, as bad as it could be, as in Lucifer eating Judas. And that could
Literally
be
the
you.
devil. Yeah.
Like, literally the devil, and
Hmm.
he has to climb the devil's body in order to
Yeah.
escape hell,
He's really going
to
through
make it to
it.
somewhere where it's easier but still hard. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it can't
Hmm.
get worse than that, but you have to work at it getting better than that. And I
Hmm.
think that's where we see him climbing out of the darkest night
Hmm.
into, the rest of the hero's journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Great answer.
I love that question.
Thanks.
That was a good food for thought.
Yeah. Hmm.
Very nice, very
Yeah.
nice.
Wow, this was very
And
cool.
I was
Dante
gonna
is
say, any
sick
other
as hell.
thoughts on Dante? I know, like, what? I wonder. Let's see, what happened to Dante after the
Yeah,
Divine Comedy?
I wanna know how he moved on from this experience because I think this would both uh enlighten me and also traumatize me a little bit.
Oh, interesting factoid. Editor Maggie put this in the video.
Uh-huh.
So it says he was born in Florence, Italy around 1265, and he claimed that he was descended from the Romans.
Ooh.
But because he had a wealthy family, everyone was just like, oh, they were just saying that because, that gives them traction, basically. But there's no proof of that. So that would make sense, a lot of his, like, Roman influence and kind of connecting that to the story. But also at the same time kind of separating himself from that by bringing in the Christianity and kind of banishing that Roman thought.
Yeah, kind of like butting the two against each other.
But now I understand why the assassins are up there. I wonder if his whole family had a vendetta.
Right.
against Julius Caesar's assassins.
Yeah, how could you?
Oh my gosh. At the age of 9, he says he fell in love from a distance and at first sight with his muse and one true love, Beatrice Portinari.
That's so sweet. That is so sweet. Yeah, that is literally so cute.
This is literally the love of his life. This is like his manifesto. This is his biography. He wrote his own biography.
Yeah. So this is my entire life. This is everything that has ever happened to me. Every person that has ever influenced me.
Oh my gosh.
It's incredible.
And it starts in the forest where he was exiled because that was his version of hell.
Yeah.
So everything after that was his whole life until he fell in love and married Beatrice.
That is so sweet.
Oh my gosh. What in the world?
Oh, that's so cute.
Apparently she died really young.
Oh,
wait.
bummer.
She is immortalized in his work, but she died at the age of 24 and was unaware of Dante's feelings for her.
That is the worst news of my entire life. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard in my whole life. Dante, please.
That makes sense why she's able to go to the highest level of heaven, though. Why is she the guide?
Yeah, she literally guided him all through heaven and then lives in the rose of Imperium with God. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wait, I have chills.
Oh.
Oh my god.
That is so cute.
Get it together. Yeah. Everyone be like Dante.
Right. Be like Dante, bro. Be like Dante. Yeah. So all I can find about his death is that he, like, just kind of got old. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Apparently.
He just lived out the rest of his life.
Apparently her death may have prompted him throwing himself into Latin literature and beginning writing the Divine Comedy. Wow.
Man. So she really was.
Him
love was really the catalyst for his entire story.
In his exile, he's like, only my love for Beatrice exists right now.
Yeah.
And yep.
Not only got him through the story within the text, but also caused him to write the story in real life.
Also, literally.
Oh gosh, that is so romantic.
Oh my gosh.
And so devastating. I have a good side quest.
Yes, go.
Yeah. So, for our side
Find
quest.
your Beatrice, no.
I was gonna say this week, tell somebody that you love them.
Aww.
Yeah. Because it's what makes the planets move. Ari, I love you so much. It's what makes the planets move. It's what puts the stars in the sky. It's the reason we're all here.
Yes.
It's the purpose that drives us all through our lives. Yeah. So tell somebody that you love them. Yeah.
That is our true purpose, is just to love each other.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love you.
I love you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I thought this was just gonna be like a really scary story about like spooky hell demons.
No, and it turned out so
but it's all a story about love. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Inferno really has a different it has a different tone once you get through Purgatorio and Paradiso. But if you're only looking at Purgatory, or if you're only looking at the Inferno, it's like oh, this is bleak. You know,
right?
Like it's
this is a real bummer.
All right, why would he write that?
Yeah, this sucks.
Especially if like he just like crawls up Satan's leg, and like that's it. That's the end of the
like, okay,
the
and we're
Inferno.
Done. I didn't learn anything from this. Yeah.
Like, I saw all these bad people.
Yeah, and learned nothing. Yeah, the whole message is at the very, very end. Yeah, and it's so worth it.
worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually can't find really anything on his death either, besides the fact that his fame grew after his death.
Yeah.
And apparently a lot of people fought for kind of like control of his remains and his things and everything in his memory. A lot of people in Italy were like fighting for control over whatever was left of him.
Yeah.
Which is crazy considering Florence exiled him.
They didn't even want him, yeah.
Yeah. I have nothing on his death, but there is a little tidbit here that says the measurements of Dante's skull taken in 1921 revealed that his nose was quite different from the aquiline shape you see in portraits and the plaster copy on display. So like the pictures don't even look like him.
Whoa, that is wild.
Based on his skull.
Interesting.
He died of malaria.
No!
In 1321.
Oh, wow.
And as soon as he died, guess who asked for his remains?
Who?
Florence.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
I was like, no. Put him anywhere but Florence.
No, seriously. Yeah, there's a tomb for him in Florence, but it's empty.
Oh.
Because they asked for his bones and they basically were told no.
Good.
So,
yeah,
I don't know where his current bones are.
That is wild. Yeah.
That is the story of Dante and his Divine Comedy.
Literally so epic. I get it. Yeah.
I get why it's epic.
Call it an epic because it is epic. Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely worth a read for sure.
Oh, yeah.
If any of y'all can get a hold of a copy. He also has a lot of other works. I think the Divine Comedy is probably the most well-known and famous because one, it's an incredible story, but I think it speaks to a tale that a lot of us wonder already. Like, is hell real? Is heaven real? Does God exist?
What happens after we die? Yeah.
What happens after we die? Like, nobody knows the answers to that. And at the time, him writing this was kind of like almost like a revolutionary thing to like be telling like the layers and levels to hell and purgatory and heaven. And it was just kind of revolutionary in that way. And it's probably one of the more detailed things. Like even Maggie was saying, like some of the things described in here are not said in the religion or in the Bible.
He just kind of,
he just goes off
them. Yeah.
Yeah. And he just like makes his own.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about.
I think I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I think that's why it is as popular as it is.
Yeah.
Because it says more about, more than anything, more than what we know, more than what we don't know. And it's just interesting food for thought, the entire story, basically.
It is so cool.
Is he alive? Is he dead? Who are these people that he's seeing? Are some sins actually weighed greater than others? I know a thing I didn't say, we just got caught up in the moment.
Yeah.
But in the seventh ring of hell, the seventh level, or however you want to call it, one of the things that is there is it's for violence, murderers, suicide. We'll have Maggie put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode. Yeah. But is also bestiality is included in that same category, and so is homosexuality. It's included in the exact same category as murder and suicide and bestiality.
Yeah.
So I mean that says a lot about the time. Obviously, and some even current beliefs and current religious beliefs. But is it worthy of the seventh level of hell, regardless of your beliefs?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
And who gets to decide that?
Exactly.
Dante? Yeah.
Who are you, Dante?
He said, I think this is definitely where all this stuff goes. I know. Yeah.
Just throws them all in there. It is definitely one of the larger rings for specific sins. Like all the other ones say like greed, lust, whatever, and then like limbo for pagans.
And I'm like specific things.
This one's like, okay, murder, suicide, like bestiality. I'm like, how did we get here? Why
Yeah.
are all these things? What is happening in this
Seems very
level of
specific,
hell?
Dante. Yeah.
This is too much. Who is in
Yeah.
this level? But yeah, that definitely says a lot about the times, but also of, you know, the history of like medieval history, religious history, history of literature. Because this is a really great work, but there are some things in here that could be like, well, why did he write that? Why did he put it that way?
Yeah.
So that's definitely worth a mention for sure. I wish I touched on it sooner.
Yeah. No, but very good. Yeah.
But yeah, so I hope y'all enjoyed us diving deeper into Dante and his Divine Comedy. I know we really went really fast describing Dante's life.
It's literally
last week.
Unbelievably long, yeah.
But I'm like, it's just so much information, and I think with some medieval stuff, it's also a bit hard because it's so old that like it's hard to find reliable sources that are all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Or like similar, you know, and it's a lot of deep diving. So if we get any of this information wrong, do not be afraid to tell us like, hey, here's my sources. I found out this instead. Like let us know in the comments, let us know on our socials.
We'd love to learn, yeah.
I would rather y'all like teach me, you know, if I look a fool right now, that's fine, but I would rather y'all teach me if you know better, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Yeah, so please do that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys are more equipped than Maggie's and I's research, you know, just let us know. And yeah, and Maggie, would you like to retell the quest again?
Yes, of course. Your side quest for the week. Tell somebody that you love them and make it good. Kidding, make it regular if you want.
Make it a daily thing.
Tell everyone every day that you love them all the time. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
Well, in the meantime, you can find us here on Spotify or YouTube, whichever you are watching / listening to.
Yes.
Our podcast. You can find us on all social media at Questing HR Podcast, and Twitter is just the Questing Hour.
Yeah. And we have new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
Yeah.
And we'll see you Thursday for a very special interview.
Yes, I'm excited. Okay, bye.
Farewell, travelers.
Oh.